Hey, I'm Joshua Mays here, also known as Valentine here in the SCA. Um, so today I'm going to go over a quick behind the scenes of kind of doing a setup for my class. This is what we are kind of end goal, what we're kind of looking at creating here. As I step off screen, here are a couple of the goblets that I've made. This one here has some captive rings. I can go over how I did that. Will you focus? Maybe, kind of, sort of. There you go. You can see those are, looks like one seamless piece of wood with those inlaid. And those are captive rings, meaning they still actually spin and rotate around it. Here is kind of a D20 goblet style here that's also, if you were so inclined, can be displayed to also hold your dice. So kind of a creation of mine here. So what this technique, if you will, allows you to do is to use inlay things onto a stem and use a different stem from the normal base. If you have done any research into any YouTube videos into goblets, most of them do a single block of wood, turn that all out, turn the stem down out of it, and it's cool. It has its pluses and minuses. With this, you can get some beautiful differences in wood, and if you do it right, you can get a nice clean transition in there. And you can also inlay things into the stem. There you go. Inlay things into the stem that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So here's all my trade secrets for this. I use all thread. 5/16 I found works the best for this. I mean, it gives you plenty of meat on the spindle to work with. You're not really going to want to go down that thin anyway, so it gives you plenty of meat to play with on it, and it also provides a rigidity inside the stem itself that allows you to meet up different woods for between the stem and the base. So, tools that I'm going to be using while I'm here. I have a little Harbor and Freight lathe. It is about 9 years old, and I think I paid $180 for it on sale. I probably have more money in attachments than doing a lathe. Anybody in the wood shop probably knows that. But all I'm using today is a self-centering chuck. I want to say it was about $100. You can get them cheaper if you can, but I just kind of got a nice one because I do a lot with them. Outside of that, I do have a small life center. Life centers do normally come with it. Basically means it spins on it, spins on your tailpiece. Drill press, you could probably do it without it. A little tougher. I don't know, I picked this sucker up at a garage sale a couple years back across the street for like $25. Keep an eye out for them. Other specialty tools, I do have a pin vise. This is by far not necessary, but if you're going to do any sort of bulk on these, it holds a not much bigger than a 1-inch piece from corner to corner, so you always get a nice straight cut. You don't have to worry about like the left, right, and drifting holes and stuff. It's worth its money. I think they're about 40, $50. I do have a small chop saw down there just to cut up the pieces and what have you. So that's a majority of the tools other than the basic lathe tools that I'm going to be using. Everything else you can do with a ruler and a pencil if you have to. Like, the speed squares and stuff like that are worth their money if you're going to be doing it. So, but to get into the hobby, it's not too terribly expensive. I also wanted to show you... I actually kind of stole this technique from my other projects, which are my kind of fancy D20 pencils there. So these are, we can get into pen making later if we're so inclined, but these are actually pencils, so I make those for people. Anyway, so lots of fun stuff you can do with a lathe. And today I'm going to show you the basics of how I do the goblet. I've already selected up, as far as wood selection goes, there are people out there far more knowledgeable than I on wood selection. But turning wood is important. One, you can get some really pretty stuff. Yes, you can make stuff out of poplar and stain it, and it comes out really cool. If that's what you have, get into it, do it. You can still make some pretty cool stuff with it. Some of the harder woods out there, like oak and stuff, will chip and grab on you. It's doable, just be careful with it. But there are a lot of cheap turning woods out there, like the myrtle and, what's the other one? It's alder, another one out there. There's some turning websites. Go shop around on Woodturner's catalog. They've got some great selections on basically, you can get a stick like this for anywhere between $4 and $60, depending on, if you're trying to get some fancy ebony or something crazy like that. So none of this is fancy. This is actually some fairly strong handle wood that I've done for doing handles for rapier swords and what have you. So anyway, so I have my 2 pieces selected. I have, just to kind of give you a general idea, my whole stem is going to be at about a little over 4 3/4 there. So it's just kind of give you an idea of scale. The base is just under 2 inches and the stem is right around 3 inches. Play with those numbers. On some of them I've done shorter, some of them I've done longer. You want to be careful it doesn't get too top heavy. I've used bigger stock on some of my beefier goblets. Like this is, I want to say it's a 4-inch base, and you can pick these up. My buddy, my knight, actually picked some of these chunks up for me. They're almost 4 inches, and they are they're great for making bases. So I made a much larger base out of one of those. So you can pick up these chunks for fairly inexpensive down there as well. So, but today I'm working with 3-inch, so it seems to be about a decent size for the stem and everything. I don't know if I talked about this jig. It's basically just a couple of 2x4s I screwed together and basically set in enough on that stem so that you have something sticking out the bottom like we do with this. So that's a lot. You don't need that much sticking out the bottom of it. Normally 3 inches or so, about 3 inches or so in there, just enough to be able to put it into the self-centering chuck. So, all right. So I use 5-minute epoxy, and if you do any sort of protein stuff, these protein lids are amazing for mixing epoxy because you bend them and the old epoxy comes popping out of it. So this is like my 3rd time shooting this video at this point. Last time I was recording it, my cat walked across my workbench, stood on my laptop, and hit the power button. I had to start over. So nothing special on this. This is just 5-minute epoxy. You don't need a longer set time with epoxy, only if you're, I ain't used this epoxy in a little while. I have tried wood glue on this and it doesn't work. Wood glue is amazing at getting wood to stick to wood, but when you start mixing materials, epoxy is the way to go. So metal to wood, this stuff, I have yet to see one of them come off, and I have been fairly rough with it. And it kind of glides and brings itself into it. There we go. And it's kind of coats the inside, give it a nice little twist. Another benefit of using the 550 cord there. And then I do the same for the next one. I don't worry too much about squeeze out on the epoxy just because there's, although I am kind of worried about these colored pencil chunks that I have in there. If those get stuck in that bottom, I could be in problems. Squeeze out mostly just because it's going to get turned down and kind of finished anyway, so I haven't really had any problems with that. So make sure these meet up. I did this prior to off camera. Make sure these meet up and sit flat, because if there's any sort of angle in there, you'll get a gap, and you don't want that. So I'm just going to kind of do the same thing here, spin it down onto it, and give it a nice spin. And this is where this this is mostly, to be honest with you, is mostly for drying. And I did not do that right. This is mostly for drying so that I get a, basically I keep it square while it's drying. I'll rest weights on top of that. I'll do any number of things just to make sure, rock it back and forth to work out any of that extra stuff in there. And then I can let that sit and dry without having to worry about it falling over all the time. All right, so I got something checked up here, and I wanted to do, I'm trying to make something here for a friend, and I'm gonna see if I can crank one of these out real quick. A couple of pro tips here. First off, if your vise wobbles, fix it. You know, you can mount these things, but I don't have a ton of workshop space, so what I normally do is use one of those big wood clamps. C-clamps, I don't know what they call these things. Woodworking clamps. Clamp this sucker down so that it doesn't move on the bench. So All right, I'm going to kind of try this angle here. Let me see if I can adjust you a little bit here. Bring you up. Come on, what are you doing? There we go. How's that look? Okay. So I hear my name inside. One of the women's talking to me. I'm not sure what's going on. So, basic wood laid safety, respirator, glasses, all that jazz. We're going to try to turn this sucker down here. I normally work from the outside in. If there's much better places out there to learn lathe work than me, but I'll kind of give you my take on it. These little lathes like this don't have a ton of power. I could grab this thing and stop it. And it's not going to do a tremendous amount of damage. Nothing loose around your neck or anything like that. I don't wear rings. Don't look up ringophasia unless you want to see what sleeving a finger looks like. But general safety like that, these tools are meant to be sharp. I got a little 3-piece set with this is what they call a bowl gouge. And I don't know if this is a parting tool or it's just a square piece there that's kind of give you an idea of what that is. And this is the sharp edge here. I don't use this thing much, but this is, I think, what they call a standard gouge right there. Honestly, you can do most of it with the bowl gouge, and this, I think they call this a parting tool. So anyway, it's mostly what you do. So what I've done is I've chucked this up here in my self-centering chuck. I've left enough in here so that I can get my tool in here and actually carve out this bottom of this when I'm doing finishing work. That was one of the reasons why I left so much thread on that, is so that I can pull it out and allow for a little more adjustment on that. So I'm going to do the knockdown. You want to start your speed about as low as you can go with it. Turn it on here. Yeah, that's scary. Make sure that's in there tight. So I'm just tightening that in. These are typically just going to tighten that in so it doesn't move much on you. All right. Now, one of the things I work with one of my other buddies on, I'm going real slow, just letting the tool take off, stuff like that. One of the things I found, it's about angles on this. And if you go straight like this, it'll work, except you're going to get a face full of wood chips. So if you just kind of give it a bit of an angle on that, it's all the wood chips away from you instead of on you. So, slow passes on this. If you get where, I don't want to break it, if you get where it just poop, and it will just grab and stop, and the whole machine will go, and it'll just stop on you. The biggest thing you want to see like that, just release the toolkit, turn it off, whatever you want to do to just get your toolkit out of there. Don't be afraid of the thing, but be have respect of it. You want your tool rest just about as close to the workpiece as you can get, and still, you want to be on the meat of the tool here, not way out here at the end, but you still want to have the meat of the tool, and that's about leverage. So I know a lot of guys use those big pieces and fancy ones. I don't know. This works fine for me. And it angles important too, so you kind of want to sneak up on it. Normally when I'm teaching somebody this, I have them start at an extreme angle and then work their way down until they find that cutting angle. So, what happens is something's moved here. This life center is no longer up in its business here, so what's moving on me? Sucker up. There we go. So check your stuff. That was spinning stuff. Back away. So I'm moving up to your mouth here. So bring out the chicken. There you go. Nice. so I'm just about down to the point where like, there's a bit of flat on that, but at this point it's almost negligible. So get stuff I don't take, my arms and all that stuff. So wood actually doesn't. So now this is a longer tool rest. I have a shorter one if I need to get in there. So what I do now is I can chuck that up into there almost to the point where it's touching. Let's see if I can get a better angle on that. That was a damn cord here. How's that? A little better? All right, so you can kind of see now my tool rest is going to sit here, and I'm just inside that sweet spot. I'm just gonna, not worried about the turn. A bit more aggressive because it's not good. It's like or something. Hurdle, yeah, hurdle. And I'm starting to think about so just about squaring a little bit here. So tends to link itself to styles that I like to use about it. That's what I want to do inlay. Put a chain there if I want to. By lather. You don't always make mistakes. You just make it smaller. So, because you turn it that way. So, I'm going to turning point for my jokes. So, because I'm going to swear, I can't speed this up. I'll put a little bit more speed on it. So, I'm just working my way into. I'm having a hard time control that. I'll take this out. That's really nice. And then, so, how I this transition out. I like my transitions to happen when it's facing the stem. So, I just want to wait on that there. I like to keep my weight at the bottom of the glass, so that's one thing I guess I will say as far as the design goes. You want to keep your weight down towards the bottom down here, just so it's in usefulness, if you will, of the cup. So I'm going to kind of keep hard lines for masculine. I normally do hard lines for masculine cups. But some kind of style with the top here. So anytime you feel like you're struggling, it kind of feels like you're struggling with, you need to move your tool rest. Because when you struggle to reach something, when you screw up. Cut into this. I don't know if you guys can actually hear me while I'm talking on this. I can actually. I'm about halfway through this video here. I'm going to clip this thing up here. All right. All right. So I'm moving my mic up here. Maybe you can hear me a little bit better. I'm debating what I want to do on this. Okay, square it up a bit. So not bad. I'm not liking this bit here, but it's coming along. So I want to change that a bit. I might do a straighter stem on this one. Whew, that's slick. So the cleaner you are with your cutting, the less sanding you have to do. So this is all soft enough wood. I can probably do shaping and stuff after the fact. So It's not bad. I'm getting a bit of chip out right here from where that transition was coming in, so I might need to hide that. So I might come back to that. I'm going to work on this base piece a little bit. So I'm going to switch over to the it's the gouge there. It's an I don't know, 1/8 of an inch gouge or something. Just going to lay it sideways on the tool rest and just a couple lines in. See if I want to do something like this. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing just to the right or left of that line and then pushing in towards that first line that I made, and it allows for a bit of a V shape in there. Nice, so it's not bad. It's not bad. So, bottom bit. Here's a little bit of a tricky bit. Now, I do use this for almost exclusively for this part. Sometimes I will choke down on that this way, so I have more meat down here, but I think I can pull this off. So I'm going to square the bottom, take as little as I can right there, just so I get enough so I know it's square, flat all the way around. And then I'm pushing at a small incline all the way in. So what I've done is I've created a concaved bottom. So, boom! You don't want to do that. See how bad that was. Actually, wasn't too awful bad. I can clean that up. All right, I'm not worried. So, don't do that. So, what I'm doing is I'm just running that Now, I'd say this is the weirdest part of this whole thing, because it will grab on you and it'll do some weird things. So keep your fingers free. Don't hit that. All right. So now I'm square on that. I gotta fix that little bumble I did right there. It's honestly not too bad. It'll probably sand out just fine. Help me a little bit. Focus. Oh, there you go. That's actually a much better view. All right, so there you go. You can kind of see what I was working on there. I might change over to that angle while I'm actually doing this whole thing. So here we go. So I'm going to go back to this bowl gouge here. Just figure out. Okay, so what I've done there is I've laid that too close to that lip. A nice little mark in there for my tool gouge, for my bowl gouge. And I'm going to stop fighting with this and use a different tool rest, because this tool rest is too big for this. Come on, you fucker. Made enough noise there. So it's a smaller tool rest. So that's all. I can get it. I like to have an undergrip. For the better or for the worse, I like an undergrip on my tool here, so I can kind of get my hand back here. I have never had an accident with that. Yeah, I don't know, look it up, make an opinion for yourself on that one. I like it. So I may have made a liar out of myself as far as this transition right here goes. I'm just going to bring this in a little bit so the transition is almost flat. Almost flat, much better. Okay, so I was trying to let that outset, and you can play with how these blend up or blend in or blend out or however you want to do it. So for instance, I'm going to take this and actually make a bit of a, woo, pretty.
I'm back to the parting tool now, and I'm going to work my way up to... Now, if the tool starts to grab, that means you need to sharpen it. Sharpening lathe tools was one of those things that took me way longer, because I was just so nervous about how my, you know, just getting the perfect angle or whatever it was with that, and I just fought with it for way longer than I should have. When it really, at the end of the day, try to keep a you know, a similar line to it. Don't worry about a perfect 45 on that. Just sharpen your tools and get back to work. You'll find what works and what doesn't work. Don't get overly detailed into these, otherwise you will hate yourself when it comes time to sand it. You know, if you want to do something basic, do something basic. It's still going to be pretty. And that little grab there, I'm going to take a little bit off of that. There we go. Nice, small, controlled movements. I kind of like that. So it's got a nice little dish in there. You can kind of see that in there. And then the transition's not bad there. I could have done a little bit better with the epoxy on that one. But it's not bad. There's different ways I've used to hide any like small lines right there. I've done some fairly seamless ones. Back to the bowl gouge, just clean this up a little bit. Still meh about this stem right now. Oh, you want to square this up as well? I'll show you how to do that here in a second. Let me actually... All right. So this wood's probably soft enough that I can do, you know, you can see a few lines in there. Those will come out in the finish if you don't take care of them. But I think the rest of this I'm just going to sand down. So once you've got the body of your goblet the way you want, like I can kind of see that groove right there doesn't look right to my eye. So I'm going to fix that now. Just kind of following the lines of the goblet here. This here is probably one of the weaker spots of the goblet, only because the stem of... Do I have any of these that aren't attached? Yeah, here we go. Only because the stem of these... I'm going to back blow out a little bit here. Out with you. This is an IR remote. I'm going to keep that in mind. So the stem of that's going to have to come down in that way a little bit. So it's probably going to get epoxied in. So we'll worry about that here in a minute. All right. So and that moves my camera. Hey, look at that. Not what I want. Let's go back this way. All right. So sanding. So once you kind of get this down like that, you can take out this tailpiece and not too terribly worried, because I'm not going to do any more cutting on it. It's all going to be sanding, so I'm not worried about this thing being perfect. Because when I turn this, it ain't bad. It's a little wobbly. I'm not overly happy with that, but I'm going to do one more thing before I... Let me see. Yeah, it's not bad. So I'm going to cut the top of this and then kind of do something similar to what I did on the bottom, where I'm using just the tip of this to bring this in at an angle that'll kind of accept the cup. Now I'm keeping the live center in there right now, so I don't have to worry about it wobbling on me. So and I can get mighty close to that live center without much of a problem. You also don't want a hard edge there, but that'll get taken care of mostly once you start sanding. So you can kind of get a general the general shape of that as we're coming into it. And the fitment on that, I've done glass before. You can get, gosh, I used to get them down at the You can buy them pre-cut where it's just the stem, which is just like this, but it's glass. You can get Bordeaux or champagne and stuff like that. But man, you put so much time into these goblets, and glass is just so fragile. These metal ones for a couple extra bucks more are well worth it. It really kind of adds value to it because it's not this fragile thing you have to be so worried about. You can kind of toss it around and, you know, throw it in your cooking gear. So now I kind of just have this nub in there. I'm going to try to crank that out of there. And I'm going to support this because now I've lost my support on the end. I'm going to support it with my finger. Careful with it. It will get hot, but I'm just going to, let me see if I can get in here with that. There we go. So you can kind of support that with your finger. You can do it short bursts at a time because it will get warm on your fingertips. And then I can kind of do a little test fit up and see that ain't bad. So I have found with these goblets, they are not always square center on that bottom piece. So I have wallowed out that center hole before, and it's a great time to test it because you can kind of put it on the lathe and you can see it's pretty damn straight. I mean, I could fight with that a little bit and get it a little more, but it's pretty flat. So, and there's the basics of the goblet. Now we can get into kind of the finishing of it. I'm probably going to bring that in. Yeah. So there's a bit of a gap in here right now, and I can get rid of that, and just to kind of see where it's hitting. It looks like it's hitting thunk. It looks like it's hitting clear down at the bottom. So let me see if I can get this down in here. Now I know there are tools to support this type of stuff. I'm not doing finishing work here because you will never see any of this ever again. I'm going to epoxy that cup in and be done with it. That's a little better. Yeah, it's a little better. Now it's not. Now it's rocking more on me though. So what you can do is I can drill that hole out a little bit more, oversized hole, to allow for, no, 7, I'm gonna try 11, 30 seconds maybe, I don't know, let's see. Ooh, don't do that, kids. That's dangerous. This is soft enough wood. I'm not too terribly worried about it. Okay, try it. Oh, much better. So now, okay, so now I can sit it in there, and I can still bend it around a little bit, but you can see now that it actually sits in there flusher. It has more of a wobble to it, so I can, anyway, you can fight with this until you get a fitment on it that is fits in a little bit better. So I think that I can make that work a little bit bigger, and I can, once I'm ready for that. You're not going to do that until all this other stuff is finished up. Now, sandpaper. What do you do for sandpaper? Now, I've used this stuff here. It is a, I don't know, Wood River, I guess is the name of it. And it's these perfect little strips of sandpaper in the different grits. This is all pretty soft stuff, so I don't think I'm going to start out at 150, but like into a 240 or something like that. I can take these little strips and work right up through the grits of where I need. So let me, and I'll even work with smaller pieces, rip them up a little bit. Now for sanding, I'm going to want to put that tailstock back in so I can apply that pressure into here. So this stuff's nice and soft, so I can do quite a bit of shaping at the higher grits. Lower grits with some of this softer stuff here. So this is my typical technique here. I put one hand over the vise lathe, and then the other one kind of up underneath and pull towards myself. That way I can kind of see what I'm doing. You know, fold the sandpaper where you need to so you can get into those spots. There's just a line there I don't like, or a tool mark that I'm trying to get rid of. Still do a bit of shaping with this, with how soft this alder is. I want to say it was alder. I can look. So let me see how this is pretty. This is stuff you don't want to breathe. Might need to go up to a higher grit on this one. So this is a hard enough wood. I might actually go up to a 150. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, that's not bad. So this one, these harder cuts, these deeper cuts, I'm actually going to come up to a 150 on this. There you go. You can see how much material can come off of that. Whew. So I know it's probably hard to see. It's shaking a lot. It's probably harder to see. The stuff gets hot too. So just friction creates heat, guys. Y'all should know that. So I'm going to pay particular attention to the, you can burn your wood with sandpaper. So if you're having to work too long at it, go up grits. It'll save you time, trust me. Snapping your fingers after you burn them doesn't help, but makes you feel better. All right. How long is this? I'm at 35 minutes here. Oh, yeah. So I went up here and hit this with the 150. I'm going to have to go back over. So I think I'm going to call it there, guys. I am ready to have a drink. And I might come out here and finish this later tonight. I might not. I might spend an evening with the women. Before I got to go back to work tomorrow. So here's one of the reasons why I leave more meat back here. Just leave you with this little bit of parting advice here. I can crank this out and just grab the end of that. And now I can get in here and finish the bottom. Now, I will use these sanding discs, the round ones you use for like the orbital sanders. Boy, this stuff makes good sandpaper. If you get the... Because on the bottom, it's harder to get rid of those, it's hard to get a nice clean cut with it. You really got to get rid of those tool marks. So I'm going to get in there real good with this. Get a nice, even finish on the bottom of this. There we go. So there's a bit of a line there, but I think it's mostly just sandpaper. That actually cleaned up real nice with that. All right. So there is a... Take it out of the lathe. I mean, and I could finish this right now. I'll probably go down to 200. I don't think I'm going to need to go up to, or 320 or so. I don't think I'm going to go up much higher than that. This, the SA finish that I'm going to put on this, we'll talk about finishes later. Man, it's whited out there, and try that way. There you go. So it'll darken up. This one's actually a more contrast once it gets in there. But I think this will make a nice little goblet for somebody. So I'm going to call it there. Thank you, everybody. I'll leave that on the bench. Time here. All right, so this has had enough time to set up. You know, it's got the lacquer on it. It's all sanded about as well as I care about. So here is what I use to cut off these ends. no point giving you a problem and not showing you how to fix it. So just back out. Wow, I am really zoomed in there. There we go. All right. So I have a little Dremel hanging up right here. Boy, is that thing handy. So I use just the little cutoff wheels. I'm not sure I can, actually probably would have been helpful to have this already chucked up here. So these are the little cutoff wheels. Speaking of which, I might need to order more of them. Nope, got a whole new package of them. Perfect. So I use the thin cut, is this the metal one? They make metal and plastic. You can get the metal ones. It's a bit of an investment to do the Dremel, but boy, is it worth it. Now I used the little Harbor and Freight one of these until I burned that sucker up, and I use that thing for a lot of unnecessary drilling. So, and best $50 you'll spend is on this little pin attachment. You can hang that thing up there like a dentist and just work in there. I hate the dentist. So I also use these stone bits to take finishes off of things or age things, or the sanding discs are nice. So these little cutoff discs are also pretty handy. So how do I want to do this here? Show you on camera how I do this. Honestly, this is a pretty decent way to hold on to this. Let me pan down here a little bit. So this is how I put my finish on it. I put it on my drill. I put it on the lathe, but like I said, I don't know if I talked about that in the previous part. So I can kind of control the spin a little bit better, and then I'm not worried about getting this. Once again, I've had this thing for 15 years, this Ryobi one, and it's back when they made decent tools, apparently. So I'm not worried about getting a little bit of lacquer on that. So I am going to go ahead and, now remember, here's the tricky part. The law of unintended consequences here is we made this convex so it would sit nice on the table, which means it's going to be a pain. Now I'm right-handed, so this is going to be kind of hard for you to see here. So actually, here we go. I can do it like this. So I'm going to cut into this. Nope, that's not going to go. Angle for the dangle there, boys. Woo, that was a pretty decent cut. Now, I've got that down most of the way that I want, and I'm just going to kind of come in here and clean down that nub because you don't want any sticking out. And I'm being very cautious that my eyes are not in the line of fire with this. There we go. So not too terribly bad. Be cautious with those things. Those things will tend to jump, but I can kind of give you an idea. It's not bad. I mean, it's pretty cleaned up. I had one little jump there when I was trying to do it at a funny angle, and there's a few marks on there. I might buff those out, but it's also the bottom of the glass. Fuck it. If you're looking at the bottom of my glass that close, then don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I give these things away. So one of the reasons I don't charge for them. So now we have a goblet there that you can kind of get. Now you can kind of get the, hey, that bottom little metal bit's still hot. Don't put your fingers on it. So there you go. You can get a little finished goblet there. I'm going to put some epoxy down in there, set it in, put it on my granite countertops inside, so I can kind of tell if that top bit, you're going to want to look at that top bit there and see if it's flat. So, but there you go. There's a quick little goblet project. You can wow your friends. It's got a nice metal top, and I'll put all the links for that jazz in there if you guys are interested in that, or if anybody cares. So there you go. Thanks, guys.